All right, welcome, Matt. Welcome back to another. I don't know. Is this episode 10? Is that right? I think
Yeah,
so.
I
I
think
think
that
it's
is.
episode 10. We've had a good week on a lot of fronts. Today, we're going to talk a little bit, of course, about the Yankees. A little breakdown. We'll go NFC North this week, which is a big one in my house. But I think you have a little tribute we need to start with, eh?
Yeah, Henrik Lundqvist after I think it was it 15 or 16
15 years.
years. Yeah,
15
and
years.
the NHL retired confirmed due to heart inflammation, which is sad because that's obviously not the way you want to leave. I mean, it would have been nice if he could like officially retire with like at Madison Square Garden with the Rangers, but I was looking forward to him just having another season, whether it was on the Rangers or not, just watching him play, like to get to see him play. But unfortunately, things didn't go the right way for him, and he had medical issues and had to get, I think it was an aortic valve something surgery.
Yeah,
But
yeah, he had an aortic valve replacement, and I think it's pretty serious surgery. And he thought
yeah,
he was going to make a comeback, and it turns out he's got to have another surgery, according to the Swedish newspapers.
uh,
Look, he was the king for 15 years in New York. New York's been really lucky with goalies. Before that, Mike Richter. I remember Van Beesbrook as far as my rooting years. The Rangers with Benoit Allaire. Whether it's him or the goalies, they've been doing a really good job. Let's
mhm.
hope Shesterkin is good, but can't thank Lundqvist enough. All those great memories. I wish the Rangers could have got him a cup, but most teams don't get a cup. So with that,
Yeah.
let's turn it over to the hottest team in baseball, or actually tied with the hottest team in baseball, the Yankees and Dodgers. But Yankees 9 in a row continue to thump the Twins, which, geez, they own that team so much. The juju is going to have to change eventually. What do you think the big difference has been, Matty?
I mean, I feel like it's a variety of things. One, their starting pitching's been fantastic. I mean, Cole had a good. I wouldn't say he was awesome start yesterday, but 6 innings, no runs. We'll take that every day. And
Well,
Keel,
striking out the side or the strikeouts when the bases
yeah,
were loaded were that was the difference in both teams.
hmm
They both got bases loaded jams and a problem. Cole struck out two guys. The other guy gave up rip roaring doubles into the corners, and the Yankees won, and that was the
yeah,
difference in the game.
yeah. And I think uh, if you go back now, which is now or 4 straight years of making the playoffs, 2017, 18, 19, 20, and hopefully this year, I feel like almost every year except 2020, there's been something that we can like rally on or midway or late in the season that has gotten them on late hot streaks or whatever. That's kind of propelled them to playoff mode and playoff baseball. And I think 2017, obviously, they started with like the thumbs down, which and that was that was interesting. That wasn't my favorite one. I don't really
Well,
remember what
we
20.
also don't know all the chatter that goes on in the dugout. So as long as it means something to them, it's great.
Yeah,
This year, as we don't. I don't know what that comes from, but keep going.
yeah, and I don't really remember I remember in 2018 they were doing something. I don't maybe
Gardner
not,
was
but
hitting a bat. See,
that
there's
was 2019. That was my favorite one. They would go like this every time they got a hit, and they kind of rallied off that energy just by one person. That every time there was an ejection or bad umping, which is almost every game, and his reaction, which they all took a laugh out of it, and they turned it into something pretty serious with their nice rallying cry. But this year, I think it's really the Bronx kid, Andrew Velasquez. I think that's the rallying cry. Is this kid's been fabulous. He roped a homer down the line last night, and to see his family like crying, and to know that he's sleeping every night in his bedroom he grew up as a kid
right
while
down the
he's
street from me.
Yep, as he's playing at Yankee Stadium,
Yeah,
and it's that's the perfect thing. Like everyone's like, oh, MLB debut, whatever, dreams come true. That's actually a dream coming true. He wanted those moments with
yeah.
the Yankees,
He's
and
definitely. My problem with Velasquez is I don't know how long they could keep this a reality when Urshela and Torres comes back.
yeah,
I don't think Velasquez. I think he'll be a bit part. I hope he's around because he has brought the energy. He has deserved it. I thought
mhm.
the biggest part was trade deadline. Before it, we were
Yeah,
all
that's a big part too. Yeah,
we were up in the air like the media around him was like, the Yankees should sell. They should give up. This team's got no life, no personality. I think we talked about it the whole first half of the season. It was like, they were just dead. They didn't seem like they cared. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, like the spark of bringing in Rizzo and Gallo, just the energy just changed, and I don't know what that is. And then you take a look at someone like Voit, who's been injured all year, sees his name in the newspapers that he's going to get traded, and he has come out scorching and angry. And his press conference
Yeah.
where he's like, "Hey, I was the home run champion last year. I want to play," and I love that. And that's that competition. Like, I want to be on the field. I want to
Yeah.
play. He is ripping the ball. Rizzo had a huge hit yesterday. I think if they could get Gallo hitting the way he was in Texas, this lineup is going to be clobbering some, especially bad pitching, really bad.
Well, that's what you look at with when they face the Astros. I remember John Smoltz or Tom Verducci, whatever one said it. They when they faced the Red Sox earlier in the year, it was like you come with your best right-handed stuff against right-handed hitters, and it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all right-handed hitters. Now, literally every day, the Yankees have been going right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left through the whole
Yeah,
entire lineup, and it's you can't detour or not. I didn't mean to say that. You can't navigate your way through this lineup as easily. You should bring out, say, a guy from the Red Sox like Matt Barnes, or like even for starting pitchers like Nate Eovaldi. Like, he's gonna run into, like, he looked really good against the Yankees, but one mistake to Voit with that
yeah.
homer. Like, you can't like
Well,
navigate
they're also
as
putting
easily.
pressure on the pitcher by running. Like, since the All-Star break, they went from a team that I bet they were one of the lowest if not the lowest
Yeah,
steal
they were the
percentage
lowest.
in the majors, and now they're running all the time. Judge is stealing bases, and that pressure on the pitcher just gets
Yeah,
into your head and causes them not to focus on the mound, and then the hits
yeah.
become easier. The runs start moving. Yes, you'll get guys caught on the base path, but everything's going their way right
Just
now.
being aggressive.
Yeah, and it's made a huge difference. Credit to Aaron Boone, kept it together. Credit to Cashman, who we was taking a lot of abuse. He made the right moves at the deadline. I'm very nervous about the bullpen, though. In all the
Yeah,
years of watching Yankees baseball, well, not all the years, that's right, of the last decade of and the Rivera years, you just never worried about the bullpen. Going back to
yeah.
when
That was the
they
strong
had
suit.
Wetland and Jeff Nelson, there was always 7 through 9 the Yankees just shut you down. I don't
Hmm.
feel that confident this year. There's guys like
Yeah,
Heel and stuff who there's just no Chapman doesn't give me that confidence that I'm looking for. So I think that's
that he
something
had. Yeah,
you really have to look for. Um, but the personality and energy of the team, you could see it. Like even
yeah.
the guys who are coming in and pitching and just doing different things. It's been great.
Well, I think that's where they're the annoying Yankees fans like me and a lot of others, and then there was more calm Yankees fans like you. And what I need to learn as a Yankees fan, a lot of Yankees fans need to learn is that, like, they always want to win instantly. I mean, who doesn't? But that they were the mistake I was realizing with a lot of fans. They were calling for everyone's head. They're calling for Boone, Cashman. He's terrible. Now the Yankees are the hottest team in baseball, and you don't hear anything from them. I wasn't calling for Boone's head. I was calling for Cashman's head. But I'm glad they stayed with Boone, and Boone proved everyone wrong. He deserves to manage this team for the rest of the year and for next year, because he's done a great job every year with what he's given. With
Yeah,
what
and
he's given.
the reality is we all know players go through streaky stuff. That's why baseball 162 games. When you look at a roster that's good, odds are it's going to end up in good shape. My biggest fear is the bullpen and can they manage it? Do guys like Green pitch the way we expect them? Does Chapman pitch the way we expect them? How long can Nestor Cortez be this? Like, he is one of the people like Velasquez that people are gravitating to it. I mean, he's dropping sidearm on ESPN. He's throwing 91-mile-an-hour fastballs, and in the highlight, they're putting flamethrowers next to it, and it's like he's not throwing the heat. He's just tricking guys. He's exciting to
Yeah,
watch. Those are the people that get the team going to the next level, and
it's the starting staff that's really put us there, because
yeah, Tyone's
Tyone
turn.
and Montgomery. I don't think, honestly, right now, if when Herman comes back,
There's no
I don't
place
know
for
if they. I don't think they take Heel out till he shows that he's
so he gives
not
up a
okay.
run at least.
Yeah.
Um, I haven't seen the latest on Severino. I don't know, but I can't imagine at this point in the season, even if he comes back, you would probably throw him in the bullpen, and he would be, a 5th through 7th inning guy in
Yeah.
games that are a little bit shaky, or a starter as a bad
I'm
go of
not.
it.
I'm not so big on him because what I've seen the last couple years, everyone's like, "Oh, he's
Well, you
pivotal
haven't seen
part,
any
whatever."
last couple of years.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
thought when they signed him to that deal, though, that was the offseason. Like they extended Severino, and I was like, oh,
yeah,
we all thought Severino was going to be this long time potential Cy Young pitcher, and they got him. I think it was like 4 years, 40 million or whatever it was, and then they signed Hicks to a deal that was market. Okay, it was too long for me, but I was like, okay, they're locking up these guys at a reasonable rate long time, and then they all got
yeah.
hurt.
Well,
So
that's what exactly. What I remember everyone being like, "Well, the Yankees, like with the injuries, they need Hicks, they need Severino. They don't need those. I don't. They don't need those guys. I rather like looking back now. I wish that Tanaka was still here over Severino. Like I feel like Tanaka's the better playoff guy, and he's pitching.
I
Severino's not
wonder.
here.
I wonder
Like
how Tanaka is doing. I haven't seen. We'll have to look
I
up
just know
his.
he won the gold medal. That's it.
Oh, he pitched in the Olympics. I didn't know that. But yeah, so all good things on the Yankees. 9 in a row games canceled today due to the hurricane. Let's hope that everyone's all right on that front. But exciting stuff. The Rays just continue to win, which is frustrating. Hopefully,
Yeah.
the White Sox could steal a game from them here or there. But Yanks are in good spot. Red Sox are in free fall. A's are coming back down to reality. All good things on
Oh,
the.
I called it. It's ridiculous with everyone being like the Red Sox and the A's. Man, they're like, oof, and the Astros are now losing a lot. I mean, they won 2 straight, but they were losing a lot. I don't want to hear a blip about the A's or the Red Sox. They're not postseason teams. I don't want to hear a blip about the Astros. I really think when push comes to shove, even with how the Yankees have played this year, I'd take them over most teams in the playoffs because of their experience. I would take them over the Astros in the playoffs.
Well, I
Starting
think they
staff,
have they
bullpen,
have a
offense.
good playoff lineup right now. I just wish they had another strong arm out of the bullpen, and there's potential that
Yeah.
one of their guys ends up being that. They're very streaky right now. So when they get
Well,
into the playoffs, you need Green to be hot. You need if Heel is still a part of the mix at this point. You
yeah.
need shut down, strike out, when runners are on base, be able to get a big out, and we'll see. We'll see, but it's
Yeah.
fun.
Well,
It's certainly fun. I mean, I can't wait till they get healthy, and you get that lineup with Torres or Shella, Gallo, Judge, Stanton. Stanton playing in the outfield just opens up such a lineup potential with Rizzo at first,
yeah.
LeMahieu at second, Torres at short, Urshela, and then you get a DH of Voit. Then you get the gigantic Jolly Green Giants in the outfield. I don't know how great that will be on the defensive side, but that
Well,
lineup will terrify them.
Stanton was playing really good in right field the other day. He played
Yeah,
to take. I mean, he looked like he didn't take a year off. Judge in center worries me, but a couple games doesn't hurt.
no,
And
but I think that's your best lineup. And then
no, it is.
if you
Yeah.
get the lead, you could put some guys in there for defense. You could put Velasquez in there at defense. You could put Gardner in the outfield to tighten it up. Or you
Well,
also
what
have
hurts right now is that they have. What stinks is you have Odor, who's been a huge part, and just the emotion in the dugout.
yeah.
It's Odor, Gardner, Wade and Velasquez are going to be left out, and that's going to be, I think, one of those gets sent down,
Yeah,
and
but
Higashioka.
they'll extend the rosters, and so they'll be around. I don't think Higgy's gonna be a big deal. I don't think he's gonna play in the playoffs.
Really?
But I
Not with
think some.
Cole.
I don't think when it
They're
comes to
still
playoff,
doing that.
we'll see what it is. Jonathan Loizaga is I think a big key to whether
Yes.
how well he's gonna do as far as. He looks like he has that closer mentality. Getting Britton healthy again is big. I don't know what happened to Miguel Andujar, but he seems completely out of the
Whatever.
mix.
Him and
Yeah,
Clint Frazier, they've been so
Clint
like
Frazier's just dealing with so many health issues. It's
they're dodging what they're not. I feel like they're not telling us what it is. I don't really care because it's not like he's like an all-star player on the team that they need to make it to survive in the playoffs. But with the bullpen, like you said, my worry with Chapman is he's not throwing like 101 for strikes. He's throwing 96. Guys can hit 96, and his greatness is when he's throwing 101, 102, and then drops a backdoor slider or throws in a massive sinker or a splitter. And I don't think that's because of the sticky stuff or the nail chipped. I just think he doesn't have it or confidence wise. And that's what they need him to come back throwing 100 for strikes. That's when Chapman's on his game and
well,
can't
yeah, well,
run that.
throwing strikes is the key. And then I also think is don't give up on the speed game. Having guys like Tyler Wade and Velasquez and even push the envelope and put the pressure on, and that has made a huge difference. The speed game, I feel like, has really changed how teams approach them. And
Yeah.
it's ended up resulting in a lot of runs just from the pressure it creates.
Yeah.
But all good news on the Yankees. Let's move over into football. Last week we did the NFC East. We're running out of weeks before the season starts. We're going to go a little NFC North today, which, as you know, in this house is a big deal because Caroline cannot stand the Packers with a passion and is a huge Bears fan. So let's
I
start.
I
Let's
think
start
I
with the
think
Bears.
we already know who's gonna win that division. Mm.
Let We'll go through it together. Let's start with the Bears. The Bears bring in Andy Dalton. They franchise tag Allen Robinson. For all those playing fantasy, you should make sure you grab Allen Robinson. Every year in the draft, he slips a little lower than he should be, and he always delivers. He's incredible. Um, the people who left, the biggest one was Kyle Fuller. Akeem Hicks they were able to keep after they thought he was going to go on. Trubisky's gone. Nobody cares about that. For them, it's all about how long till we get Justin Fields in the lineup. Andy Dalton thinks he's going to play. Justin Fields looks electric, but we haven't seen him in real time against the NFL first teamers. So
Got
who
rocked
knows?
yesterday.
Well, when he came in, he was fine. So I don't really care about preseason at all, and especially this year, barely any starters have been playing. This has been like auditions. Um, the Bears have a strong defense,
Yep.
really strong defense. Their offense, they're a similar team to the Giants in the fact that bad offensive line,
Mm.
yeah, terrible offensive line, and they don't know how well that's going to work with their quarterback. I think the Giants are a better team. I think the Bears have some really excellent talent in certain positions. But for me, the Bears, I feel like they have a tough schedule. They're going to come out of the gate slow. I hope not too slow because I'm going to Game 4 in Chicago. And then it's going to be the Justin Fields show to save the coach and the GM's job. I see them 8-9, 9-8, right in the middle of the pack. What's your thoughts?
I want to ask you a question. Also, I want to look at their schedule real quick just to get a read on that one.
Their
Do you
win total
think
from Vegas is 7.
okay? So then, but do you think at the end of the year the Giants go into Soldier Field, Soldier? I always get it wrong.
Soldier Field.
Soldier Field. Do you think the Giants win that game
Yes, I
on
do.
the road?
But
I see. I
but
agree. I agree.
but I don't think that's a function of who the Bears are. I think it's a function of who the Giants will be. I think the
Yeah.
Giants are going to, if we saw last year that they improved throughout the year, which is everything you want. Now,
Mhm.
injuries are going to be a factor as it always is in the NFL. So who knows what kind of team you got down the stretch. But all things being equal, I think they'll be in better shape. I think the Bears will finish their season with the fan base on fire, excited with Justin Fields because he's going to make some electric plays. But we
Mhm.
never know how I remember RG3 busted and everyone went crazy. He was great. He was moving. Then you got to see how teams adjust to them, and can they handle that adjustment? And then we'll know. We probably won't know until next year if we believe in Justin Fields. But if he fails, goodbye to Nagy, goodbye to the GM. They're in big trouble.
I have them looking at their schedule. I have them 7-10.
7-10. So you're in line with Vegas.
Yeah.
Then you roll down to the Detroit Lions. A new coach.
Terrible.
A lot of wave on who the coach is. He's making a lot of press. They bring in Jared Goff in a big deal. They kind of look like they're rebuilding. They have Tyrone Williams coming in. They brought Jamal Williams, the running back. Michael Brockers came as part of another trade with the Rams. But they lose Stafford. They lose Marvin Jones. They lose Jesse James. They lose Danny Shelton, who I think is going to be great with the Giants.
Galladay.
Yeah, there is. I don't think there's much. If you're a Detroit fan, you are excited with your coach Dan. No, your coach Dan Campbell seems like he's changing the culture. He's changing the type of player that brings there. They are going to mold themselves into a smash mouth, in your face team. I think they're going to win 4 or 5 games at best, and I just don't think they have the talent, unfortunately, to this. So that's where I'm living, and maybe what do we got? A 17-game season, 4-13, 5-12 maybe this year. What is your thoughts?
Looking at it right now, let's see. Hard schedule. Ooh. I have them going 3-14. That's not any. They have a hard schedule. They have the 49ers at home, Packers on the road, Ravens at home, Bears on the road, Vikings on the road.
Yeah,
Bengals
at
home.
They play that tough AFC division this year. With was it Steelers, Bengals,
Seahawks, Broncos
Ravens,
on the road, Browns.
So it's
Packers,
a tough year for the NFC North with their way their schedule lines up. So
definitely, that's not going to be easy for them.
All right, we'll move on to the Vikings. I've heard, when I watch TV and these other pundits talk, a lot of people, Vikings are underground Super Bowl team. They thought they were a huge disappointment last year. They bring in Mason Cole through offensive lineman. They bring in Dalvin Tomlinson, who we know from the Giants was great. Patrick Peterson comes in on a 1-year deal. They lose Kyle Rudolph. They lose a little bit of the defensive line. They lose Riley Reif, the offensive lineman. Not a lot of changes. Their defense was really solid. I think they were disappointing last year, and I'm not sure I could pin it on why. Kirk Cousins is a polarizing figure for sure. When you talk to Vikings fans, they seem to hate him. When I watched him in Washington, I didn't think he was that bad. He won me a fantasy football title 1 year. It's not all glamorous. I think the Vikings are an underrated team. I think they're a 10-win team. I'm looking at 10-7. Let's see. I will give you what the Vegas calls for an 8.5-win total. They have Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen. They have the potential to be explosive. They have an unbelievable running back. I just don't think people know how it's gonna come together.
I think they're good, but their schedule has me going under that 8.
Under the 8, really?
They have Bengals on the road, Cardinals on the road, Seahawks at home, Browns at home, Lions, Panthers, Cowboys, Ravens, Chargers, Packers, Niners, Lions, Steelers, Bears, Rams, Packers, Bears. That's not an easy schedule.
Yeah, everyone in the NFC North has a really tough schedule this year, so it's going to be – they're going to beat each other up, and then their games outside the division are tough. We're going to have to mute this for Caroline as we move into the Packers section because she's not going to want to hear anything about it. When we play it for her, we'll cut a little outtake where we both say the Bears are going to go undefeated and win the division. The reality is you got the Green Bay Packers. Vegas over-under is 10.5 from what I'm seeing.
Oh, definitely
here.
over.
They re-signed Aaron Jones, which is big. I don't think they lost Jamal Williams. many losses. They lost Tramon Williams, but it wasn't a big transition year. We all know what the big story was. It's Aaron Rodgers. Everyone thinks this is his last year in Green Bay. He put himself out there and put a lot of pressure on himself to be that he needs to make the personnel decisions. So if this team does well, he's going to get a lot of credit. If this team does bad, he's going to get bashed in the media, and the fans are going to want him out of there. I think he's too good of a quarterback to not do well. But I only saw one Super Bowl ring with him for all the chances that team. They have the number one wide receiver in the league in Devontae Adams. Aaron Jones is a great running back. They have a strong offensive line. To me, their defense is what I'm not so sure about. They'll score tons of points, but when you get it into it with one of these really strong teams, can you play defense? Can you get teams off the field so that Aaron Rodgers is on the field at the right time? Last year, what I thought was a terrible coaching call, taking the ball out of the Aaron Rodgers' hands on 4th and 1, and instead going for a field goal. That they could have been Super Bowl bound. I think the Packers will be right in it. If Aaron Rodgers is healthy, they're going to be in the Final Four in the NFC East, and I don't think they'll make it to the NFC Championship because something always goes wrong with them.
I 100% agree. I don't think they're going to win the Super Bowl this year by any stretch of the imagination. Possibly an NFC Championship berth. I don't see it. I mean, they're good at home in the playoffs, and they're always a good home team. But still, like you said, something always seems to go wrong. When everything looks perfect, something goes wrong. And I have them at 13-4 this year. I think
13. I'm gonna, based on their schedule, I'm gonna go a little lower and think that they're only gonna get 11-6 is where they're at. There's too many bruiser teams. And I don't know if they're deep enough to survive injuries, but when it comes to injuries, we're all guessing. I think the coach will change around. I do not, if they get off to a bad start, I do not like Aaron Rodgers, talking about which players should be on the roster. I don't.
Oh yeah, that's
yes, there are players that exceed. He is a player that deserves a say in who he's throwing the ball to.
Yes.
That's it. If he goes to the GM and says, I have a great relationship with this, I know he's not the fastest. I know he's not, on paper he doesn't look like the best guy, but our connection is so strong that I want you to keep him. He has every right to that, but he shouldn't be making any calls on who stays on defense and all these things.
Yeah.
Stay in your lane. I'm not an Aaron Rodgers fan at all, but I'm not dumb enough to think he's not a great quarterback. He's an incredible quarterback. I've never seen guys who just on the run just heave the ball like that. But the NBA schedule is out. Not much to talk about there.
I mean, we could go over some Giants news. They have had another fight.
Another fight. I got no problem with this. I can't tell you enough. Joe Judge is the man. The guy. That team is ready to roll. Today
I honestly
think is going to be a joke.
I honestly think they should be a 10-win team. I honestly think that.
I agree with you, but that offensive line does scare me.
Yeah, but now if you have Barkley healthy week 1, and now Jones has receivers to throw at, now he can either escape the pocket, run with his legs, jump it off to Barkley, or throw it to one of his good receivers. So now
he can't do it if he's laying on his back.
Well, now he has all the maneuvers to get out of scenarios like that, because you saw last year, everyone's crashed. He's got a couple seconds to decide. Barkley's not there, and we don't have good wide receivers to take the sack or try to run away or fumble or something, because that's what the scenario was last year. Now he has ways to maneuver that. Offensive line's obviously not good, but I don't think they're going to be terrible. I think they're a bottom 15 offensive line for sure. I don't think they're lower than 25th in the league. So
that's pretty bad though.
They're not going to be
I agree
terrible.
with you. If they're in the middle of the pack, they're totally fine because the rest of their weapons are okay. If they're bad like they were last year, last in the NFL in pass protection, it's not going to be good. The good news is these Browns practice, they said they have held up their own. And one, really encouraging, they said Will Hernandez looks a lot better. You know, he had the COVID last year. He looked terrible, got pulled out of the lineup at the end of the year. They
Yeah.
said he's really held his own this week against the number ones, and the Browns have a good defense. So, you know, we don't know, but if that line could just be marginal, it would be a terrific thing to see.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have Nick Gates at center. He had a good year. I mean, Shane
That was his first
Lemieux.
year at center. Shane
Yeah.
Lemieux, rookie.
Shane Lemieux wasn't bad. I was not impressed in the least with Andrew Thomas. I think I was a waste of a pick, but apparently he's
Well,
doing well.
the
Apparently he's
first
doing
half of the
well.
year was the moment they fired the guy from the former Cowboys guy who was the offensive line coach when Judge and him got in a fight, and they brought another coach. Andrew Thomas turned the corner and started doing much better. I
Yeah,
feel
he
there was
has
a
a lot. He has a
definitely
lot to
coaching
prove.
discrepancy. There was a huge coaching discrepancy, but if you look on Pro Football Focus at the second half of the year, he was much improved. Was he where we
Yeah.
want him to be? No, but I'm not. I think he's going to be okay. I think
Well,
he's going to be
as him and Jones, I mean, as two top 10 picks, they have a lot to prove this year. I think because yes, there's always room for improvement, and you can cancel out that rookie year because that's, that doesn't say everything about a player. But I think guys who are top 10 overalls have to be held to a different standard.
Yeah,
Like
but there are
Fields,
different positions carry the learning curve. Like most guys
yeah,
don't come in their rookie year and do very well.
yeah,
It's there's the level of competition. There's the speed of the game. There's the complexity of the playbook. You're going up against guys who have been playing. Played all through college at the top level. Now they've been playing the NFL. They know how to get around you. Like Andrew Thomas was getting beat by the same way all the time early in the year. And then when
yeah.
they made some adjustments with his hands, granted, I'm not an offensive line coach, he started doing a lot better. So, yeah, and Pert, we don't know, big body first year.
Yeah.
The Giants got a lot of faith in this line. I would really like to see, at either after final cuts of spring training, after final cuts of training camp, or after week one when you don't have to have the salary be fully guaranteed for the year, bring in one or two veteran offensive line, one to see how they're doing, or just to as depth.
Yeah.
They don't have to be great, but if you could get a guy who could finish, like you said, towards the middle of the pack and just be solid enough, it will go a long way.
Well, that's what I think the Giants need. And I've said this, like, obviously we need the offensive line to have their moments where they're not just like blowing every scenario for Jones in a passing play. But I think, again, the most important thing, and I said this last week, and it's going to get annoying for people to keep hearing me say this, but I think the Giants really need to just find a way, whether who defense, offense, one of them's not having a good game, they need to find a way to beat the teams that they can beat. And I was talking to my friend about this who is on Panther Creek JV football team, and he's a big Giants fan. We were talking about like week one against the Broncos, and I remember saying this last week or 2 weeks ago. They just, I feel like the really important thing is winning games like that, like because games you should win. Because last year you're blowing games like, and you're losing games you should have won, and then like a one or two winning that you shouldn't have won. But that's the big thing this year is just finding a way to win those games like against the Broncos, because you're going to have those games on the road against the Chiefs, against the Buccaneers, and then you have
Yeah.
some like against the Chargers, where not every game's going to be so like where not every opponent's going to be so black and white that the Giants set up against them is a better team than even before they play, even before kickoff, like where the Giants are a better team as them put on paper. They need to just win those games that they actually are, because they're better than the Broncos, and it's a home game. The Broncos play in central or the center of the United States, so it's going to be an hour off. Don't know if that does anything, but and with the air, like we got to take everything in, and they got to win a game like that, and games like the Panthers at home, and like that's how they're gonna make the playoffs this year. Is if they win games they should win. Which
Yeah, I mean that's the bottom line. There's always the disappointment in the way these things go, and you just never know. We shall see. I think that, yeah, I'm always so confident that you never know. I think first of all, we'll come back next broadcast. I think there's going to be a lot of fantasy football talk as drafts are kickoff.
Oh yeah.
We won't go into huge at length. I think we'll give us each our predictions on who we think some deep sleepers are and who steals are. I think Allen Robinson will be one of those people who always is top rated, and someone just looks at the Bears offense and goes, I don't want them. But we'll get into that, and we'll get a lot of NFL next week as we get right before the season, and then we'll keep it live with the Yankees. Anything else for today, Matty?
Well, speaking of fantasy football, I was gonna share my lineup that I drafted this year.
Oh, you drafted? All right, let me
Yeah,
hear
we had it yesterday. My dad had to do like the first 30 minutes of it because I was at work. But as of now, I have Josh Allen at quarterback, Chase Edmonds at running back, James Robinson at running back.
I like Chase Edmonds' situation. Very good. Who's next?
DeAndre Hopkins and Keenan Allen at wide receiver. That's just the starting lineup. Then Travis Kelce, Adam Thielen, Buccaneers D. Always going to go with Graham Gano as my kicker. That's
really?
And then on the bench, I have Mike Davis at running back.
How many teams league was this?
10 teams PPR.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I have Jerry Jeudy, James Conner, Elijah Moore from the Jets. I'm sure my dad drafted him and didn't want
that. Elijah Moore is someone you want. And especially if you get him late rounds, because his chemistry with Zach Wilson has been great. And every little blogger and Jets person said he was incredible in college, and they say he's gone right.
Yeah.
Corey Davis is going to steal some of the stuff, but let's face it, the Jets are going to get smashed in a lot of games, especially now that they lost their best defensive player in Lawson. They are going to be behind. They're going to need to throw. I think the true Jets, for the first time, they're going to throw the ball late in games to try to get back in this. So it might be some great garbage time. A great person who could probably trade with another starter to improve your lineup. For those of you who don't know, I trade my entire lineup in fantasy football. Whoever I start with, I will not end with.
Well, then my last two bench guys are Devin Singletary and Trevor Lawrence. He was there, and I was like, well, he could.
Well,
he shows up.
The same thing too. And on a fantasy team, I don't usually carry two quarterbacks ever because you could always swap. There's always someone else on the pine. But I know your love affair with Trevor Lawrence, so I get that pick. It's understandable.
Well, how about this though? Midway through the season, if Justin Fields is starting, would you pick him up for one start when your starting quarterback has a bye week?
Well, it's all about, for me, when you're starting a quarterback, unless there's someone of the Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, like not even Tom Brady, but if they're one of those, if they're one of those top tier quarterbacks, then I don't worry so much about their competition. But if you're asking me someone like in that middle pack down, I want to start a quarterback against a bad defense or a defense that can't play against the pass. So I always look in fantasy. I think it just like in real life, it's about matchups. So that's how I would pick my quarterback. I mean, I've won leagues by putting Kirk Cousins in the finals. Would you ever want Kirk Cousins to be your starting fantasy quarterback? No way. But when you have a guy who goes up a team with a terrible defense against the pass, and you know the game plan is going to be they're going to pass to beat them, that's what I'm looking for. And that's why you have that flexibility. You try to get that one quarterback, and then the backup quarterback is someone like you try to look 2 weeks ahead on the waiver wire and be like, all right.
Like Daniel Jones versus a really bad defense.
Well, Daniel Jones plays against the Eagles and you have a bad matchup, that could be something that's really positive for you. You know, there's a lot of those opportunities, and I think, you know, one of our friends of the podcast, Ken Moran, we call him the guru at work, but he's terrific at the lineup changes all the time, and you don't just line it up with stars all the time. You know, you may have a number one wide receiver, but if he's getting locked up against the best corner in the league, you know, most likely he'll get his, but he's not going to have the same sort of game. So that's where you really got to rotate and look for the right matchups. I often like guys on bad teams that they're going to get blown out, and they're going to have to throw the ball like a running back on a bad team. Even if they're great, you know that they're probably only going to get touches in the first half, and then they're behind and they got to throw. So, you know, picking guys on teams that are winning and that position. Same thing. You got a really good team, that has a balanced offense, their running game is going to probably, because they're going to be in the lead, they're going to look to run the ball and run out the game that way. So,
Yeah.
it's all about matchups. It's all about changing your lineup week to week to take advantage of the lineups. People that you would start week one may not even see your lineup at the end. And then you really got to hit those home runs on your bench. I would loan up with every running back you can that may have a shot of exploding on your bench, because once they hit their value, everyone needs running backs in football, and then you could trade those guys and move on. But we'll get into fantasy and a little more strategy next week, because that's something we could talk really long about. As you know, I love football. Anything else for tonight?
Nothing. I mean,
anything else for today, man?
Tune in for the Giants preseason game, maybe the first quarter. Probably not even the game. I might not even watch it, but
you know me. I'll watch the whole game because that's who.
I mean,
and there's no Yankee game today.
Now that the Yankees canceled, I'll probably watch the Giants game. But I was mad about the Yankees being canceled, even though I understand why.
Not if you see the weather here.
But yeah, I will. Now that I know, like
I think it was the right thing to tell the Twins get on the plane and get out of here before. As I look out the window, it's like monsoon sheets. The good news is it's apparently pushed off to the east, so now we're just worried about trees falling, but we're not supposed to get full on hurricane. I'm going to sit next to my sump pump all day long, make sure it keeps going, because that will be my stress. But we'll get together. Maybe we'll do 2 shows this week, try to get a fantasy one in there, try to get some more NFL updates before the season starts, maybe an AFC preview show. We still got to get to the NFC West, which is probably the most interesting division in all of the NFL, with all the really strong teams who made aggressive moves to get better, wild draft picks for young quarterbacks. But with that, we'll finish today, Matty. You have a good time at work. I will talk to you soon. Love you, buddy.
Love you too, guys. See ya next week.